A very good evening to one and all present here. Welcome to the closing ceremony of GDSC IGDTUW Autumn of Code 2022. I am Yashvi Sharma, the event head at GDSC IGDTUW, and I will be your host for this evening. After days of learning, contributing, and hard work, today marks the end of the first ever iteration of GDSC IGDTUW Autumn of Code. And to commemorate it, we have an exceedingly insightful and fun evening planned for you. Stay with us to go over the key takeaways from Autumn of Code, find out the winners of the program, and to get guidance on the road ahead for your open source journey. GDSC IGDTUW Autumn of Code started from October end and ran for an incredible 50-day period. It saw participation from all over the world, especially the Asia Pacific region, and, and some truly inspired contributions. It is the most extensive open source program ever organized at IGDTUW, centered around learning opportunities for aspiring developers in technology. We aimed it to inspire, challenge, motivate passionate innovators, especially women, to pursue their careers in open source and develop solutions to current world problems. We believe that together we can make a difference. GDSC IGDTUW Autumn of Code was an umbrella event under which we had sessions on all things open source, like cracking popular open source programs with a special focus on Google opportunities, how to make good proposals, low code contributions, how to maintain documentations, how to interact with project maintainers and mentors, how to put your ideas forward, etc. Along with this, participants worked on numerous projects under our guidance. Our skilled mentors helped all the participants in nurturing and polishing their technical skills and contributing to various projects from the comfort of their homes over a 50-day contribution period. We had projects from every domain that learners contributed to, including projects in AR VR, app development, AI MLDL, web development, UI UX, DSA, interview preparation, etc. Now, let us look at glimpses of the program.
We organized Autumn of Code to be a very beginner friendly opportunity. So we had sessions throughout the program on various topics in open source. The first session that we did was our kickoff event. It was on the importance of open source by Vani Chitkara. Vani is our club advisor for the year and has extensive open source experience. She was at Outreachy and was an MLH Prep Fellow. She talked about what is open source, the importance of open source, and how you can get started with it. Since most of our audience is first, second, and third year university students, this session helped to guide them on starting their open source journey and understanding its importance. Naturally, the second session we had was on Introduction to Git and GitHub by Ritika Pava. This was a very incredible session that saw maximum participation. It was highly interactive, and everybody learned about Git commands and how to use them. Ritika went over the entire pipeline of contribution and even went over how to specifically contribute to repos of Autumn of Code.
After the beginner friendly sessions, we had an amazing session with Mr. Govind Goyal. He was a mentor at GSOC, that is Google Summer of Code, in 2020 and 2022, and he is currently an intern at Requestly. He took a session about GSOC and he covered almost everything from writing a proposal to making successful contributions in Google Summer of Code and even provided a guided path to participate in Google Summer of Code. And lastly, we had a session with Mr. Harshvardhan Mishra. He has participated in both GSOC, that is Google Summer of Code, and GSOC, that is Google Season of Docs. He has also been an intern at HackerRank and Red Hat, and currently he's an open source engineer at LocalStack. He took a very interactive and informative session about GSOC, that is Google Season of Docs. He talked about low code and no code contributions, and he even talked about how to make contributions in terms of documentation. Google has a separate program for people who want to contribute in terms of documentation, that is Google Season of Docs. And he was an active participant in that program, and he covered almost everything about it.
Also, Google Season of Docs is a relatively new program, so that might just be one of the most extensive resources there are. So, do check out that session, which is still on our YouTube.
Our contributors worked under the guidance of our skilled mentors on their projects. There were insightful discussions, innovative new issues opened up, and supportive relationship between our mentors and project maintainers were developed. To tell you more about that, we have with us Arushi Garg, mentor and project maintainer of our AI projects.
Hey everyone, I'm Arushi Garg. I'm the AIML Circle Manager for the GDAC IGDTOW and I was the project admin of the AIML repository. It was a great learning experience for me, and I interacted with numerous contributors. All the contributors were highly enthusiastic and had some great ideas. The AIML repository alone received 80 plus contributions. The contributors were highly inquisitive and asked various questions throughout the program. I would also like to thank GDSC for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Arushi. In the spirit of the vast amount of AR contributions we received during the program, now we have an immersive augmented reality experience for the IGDTOW Autumn of Code program showcasing the fun and learnings our participants and organizing team had, along with a message from our community lead, Parul Man.
Hello everyone, this is Parul Man, GDSC lead for IGDTOW.
Hello everyone, I'm Anjali. I'm the managing lead at GDSC IGTW.
I'd like to express huge gratitude for everybody that helped make GDSC Autumn of Code a success. Shout out to all our project managers, mentors, and most of all our contributors. I hope everybody learned tons and stay connected with GDSC IGDTW for more such opportunities.
Thank you so much for contributing to GDSC Autumn Code. Hope to see you soon in our future events.
Next up, we have Yukti Sharma, a core team member at GDSC IGDTOW, to share her experience with open source and the road ahead of your open source journey. She has been a part of Outreachy, VGHC, LFX, and has extensive open source experience.
Hi all, I'm Yukti. I'm one of the core team members of Google Developer Students Club at IGTW and I head open source around here. Firstly, I want to thank Parul for organizing the Autumn of Code program and giving me this opportunity to interact with people here on YouTube Live. So let's talk about the GDSC Autumn of Code. The purpose of this program was mainly to get people comfortable with the process of making PRs using Git, GitHub, and sort of prepare people for the upcoming student opportunities in the open source software ecosystem. We got some amazing PRs and we tried to capture, like, we did our best to capture the essence of industry grade open source code and make sure, like, we made sure we had repos with every tech stack under the sun. Since Autumn of Code is over now, the next step for you, the next very natural step for you to continue this open source journey would be to start contributing to actual industrial open source projects and maybe even apply to some programs that are full time. Now that you guys are familiar with GitHub making and testing PRs, you are all set to apply to these full time open source programs. And some of them even have stipends like Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Documentation, Outreachy, and the Linux Foundation Mentorship Program. If you still don't feel like you want to commit full time, to a full length program for 3 months, there are a lot of smaller programs like the Girl Script Summer of Code, Script Winter of Code. And remember, the beautiful thing about open source is that you don't really need to be a part of any program to contribute. So now we are going to lay out this brief outline, like a number of elements that are important when we are applying to these programs. The first step is usually selecting a project. I want to add that in Outreachy, the first step is actually an additional step of initial application where they ask you for details, check your time availability with your academic calendar, and they're usually interested in knowing a bit about where you're from and who you are before they let you into the initial contribution period. So the next step, or like the first step in other open source programs, except for outreach, is choosing a community or a project. Remember, you need to vibe with the community you're choosing. You need to, most importantly, have genuine interest in the project so that you're able to excel. Also, this is not often talked about, but you should try that the time zones of you and the rest of the community members sort of match, because it could get hard while people do manage. But it's like a personal preference, has been a personal preference for me, that I work better with people who have time zones nearby mine. So second most important thing, or element in your is a proposal, or like a timeline you make. Almost every program requires you to submit some sort of document which talks about what you plan on doing, how you plan on achieving the project goals, and this may include a bit about you and your past experiences as well. I also want to mention that, yeah, these documents are required, your CV may be required, things like those, but your initial contribution to the project also matters. Unless you solve an issue or two or communicate with the community, the mentors, they don't really know who you are. And to be fair, you wouldn't understand the project architecture either if you don't play around with the code yourself, get your hands dirty with some good first issues. You should pick an organization, set the project up locally, and pick a few issues you want to solve and get to work. Talking about the Linux Foundation Mentorship Program, or LFX, these mentorships are not as seasonal as like Google Summer of Code. They run every 3 to 4 months. To apply, you need a resume, a cover letter, and some other documents that may be specific to the project you're applying to. The selection is usually on the basis of like a task or past contributions by you in that repository. Talking about Google Summer of Code, like the name suggests, it's only for the the summer months. The application procedure is super straightforward. You need to be relatively new to free and open source software ecosystem. Talking about the proposal, it's like a cover letter which includes a weekly timeline of what you propose to do during your time as a student developer. A nice tip, like a little pro tip for writing a good proposal, is getting it reviewed by your project mentors so they can suggest any changes to it, or maybe they could tell you to maybe add more work or less work. We will be having a lot more sessions around this in the future, so stay tuned please to GDSC. We want to wish you all the best for your open source journey ahead, and good luck.
Thank you, Yukti. That was really insightful. Now, for the most anticipated part of the evening, we have the result announcements.
So I'll go over the price list once before announcing the results. So we are almost there, the moment you've all been waiting for. So we have prizes for all our participants who have made a successful PR. All the contributors will get a certificate of appreciation from GDSC IGDTW for making a successful PR. Apart from that, all the top 25 contributors will get swag kits and goodies. Also, the top 10 contributors will get a swag kit and goodies along with a shout out on all our social media handles. The top 5 female contributors will get a special prize along with swag kits and goodies. And the top 3 contributors will get a prize along with swag kits, goodies, and social media shoutouts. So let's start with the prize distribution now.
Let's move on to the top five contributors in the decreasing order. So we have Abantika, then Mona Chaudhary, Namya Jain, AJ Dev, Tanisha, Seema Dhami, Harshita Sharma, Sheetal, Pratiksha, Pari Khaitan, Jasleen, Muskan, Abhinandan Wadhwa, Akriti, and Simi Thapar.
For the top 10 contributors, starting from the 10th position, we have Shreji, Nitya Pashrija, Saloni Gupta, Alka, Kriti, Bhavya Devani, and Abhi.
And now for the event of the evening, our top three contributors overall are congratulations Atif Moin, Soumya Jindal, and Ashwini Sharma. Congratulations, guys. And in the spirit of being an all women's campus, we have our top 5 female contributors, which are Shreya G, Nritya, Saloni Gupta, Alka, and Kirti. Congratulations, guys. And a huge shout out to everybody who participated but could not make it to the top 25. We see you, we see your contribution, and we are super happy for you all.
Congratulations to all the winners. To share their experience at IGDTOW Autumn of Code, we have our winners with us. I would like to invite Atif Moin, the top contributor overall, to share his experience at Autumn of Code with us.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Yashvi. Hello, everyone. To start off, I think I'll tell you about my journey to the event before I tell you about my journey through the event. So, my name is Atif Moin. I'm from Lucknow. I'm in my second year of college currently. I'm an open source enthusiast. I am an advocate of open source. To me, the world of open source has always been very intriguing ever since I heard about it in the beginning of last year. I just love the idea that people who have never seen eye to eye, people who have never met each other, people who know nothing about each other can come together and work together to create amazing and extraordinary things and work on unique ideas and interact with each other. It is just incredible to me, and it fascinates me. So I've naturally been very curious about it ever since I heard about it for the first time. I used to search and search on YouTube about all the doubts I had and all the things I wanted to know. So one day I remember I come across this YouTube video of this event, open source event that was going to be held called KGEC Summer of Code, which was held by the people at GDSC KGEC. So I click on the video and I realize that, this is exactly what's going to get me started, but I was actually 7 days late to the event. And at this moment, I knew nothing about using Git. I did not have a GitHub account. I, didn't know how to make a contribution. And I just remember staring at my screen just blank. All I knew at the moment was, I wanted to be a part of it somehow. So anyway, I get myself registered, and I remember feeling so passionately about this thing that I stayed awake at like 3 a.m. in the morning to learn enough and make a contribution before I went to bed. So that was my debut in the open source world, and in hindsight, it could not have been. I don't think it could have been any better. Um, since then, I've participated in various other open source events, trying to gradually build my way up to GSOC. Coming to AOC, funnily enough, I found out about Autumn of Code via YouTube, and I registered exactly 7 days late as well. Starting off knowing absolutely nothing to ending up being as a top contributor, things have sort of come full circle for me. um, Being a part of Autumn of Code has most definitely been one of my best and favorite experiences so far. Incredible event. The management was flawless. I got to be creative and got to implement my ideas and work with amazing people. The mentors were amazing. I really enjoyed my time. It was an amazing experience overall. um, Thank you to all you good people over at GDSC IGDDUW for organizing such an event. Thank you to Parul and Mol, Saloni, Manasvi, Tamanna, and all the people that organized and managed the event. Thank you, Yashvi, for being such a great host. You guys are lovely. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you, Atif. That was lovely to hear. Now I would like to invite Soumya Jindal, who is placed second on the leaderboard, closely trailing Atif, and the first over from IGDTOW to share her experience at Autumn of Code with us.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Soumya Jindal. I'm a second year student in BTech Information Technology at IGDTOW. Uh, so to begin with, it was my first open source program, And initially, I was really nervous. I didn't know how everything works, but eventually, the experience turned out to be really wonderful. My major contributions were in the UI UX project and an online quizzing portal. I got the opportunity to interact with the other coders, and I also got to know about the various resources that are available on GitHub. This program has helped me a lot to work on my skills like coding, increasing responsiveness, and how to work with a team through distant communication. So, I would really like to thank Autumn of Code for giving me this opportunity to share my experience with my fellow contributors and um, to declare me as a program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soumya. Happy to see a beginner in open source come out on top. Last but not the least, we have Saloni Gupta from our top female contributors to share her learning and experiences from Autumn of Code. Saloni, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Saloni Gupta, second year CSC AI student from IGDTUW, and it was exhilarating to know that I was amongst the top 5 female contributors in the GDSC IGDTU Autumn of Code program. As someone who didn't really know what open source is and how it actually works, this program has been nothing but amazing. At first, I was reluctant to contribute as it all seemed a bit confusing and overwhelming as a beginner. But after attending the sessions, I contributed significantly and it all seemed very fun. The entire AOC team has been nothing but wonderful. The repositories were easy to contribute to. Everything was explained so well in the READMEs as well as on the website. I would just like to say that this was one of the best open source programs I've ever come across, and it definitely eliminated all my open source related fears. Thank you, GDSC IGDDUW, for this wonderful opportunity, and I cannot wait to be associated with more such programs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Saloni. And thank you to all three participants for coming here and sharing. And congratulations to everybody else who participated. Now, to wrap things up, we have an open discussion with Parul, who's the GDSC lead, Anmol, the management lead, Tamanna, our technical lead, and Yukti, who's our open source lead, to talk about open source and how it is aiding the tech community as a whole. So, if there is anything you want to know or understand more about open source, now is your chance to ask in the comments.
Thank you, Yashri, and thank you for being such a good host throughout. It makes me really happy, and it really makes my heart full to see all these kids win, for beginners to come and just dominate the leaderboards. And I'm so happy that all the resources we provided, all the support we did really made a difference. It was just our effort as the GDSC team to bring new developers into open source. And thank you, everybody who supported us throughout. Now, we can just start talking a bit about open source as a technology. So, the circles that we run here at GDSC, our mentorship circles, are of different tech stacks. And always our end goal is to develop products, to develop projects, as we call them. And something which is very, very helpful in developing these products is open source, because tech as a community is amazing. It is all open source. If you put something on GitHub, others can learn from it, see it, and we're very collaborative that way. So open source is just instrumental in helping tech and just leading the way. And this year we just made sure that there were repositories of every tech stack there is. As Yukti mentioned, we made sure that there was something for everybody. And one thing that I take a lot of pride on is our club has a lot of AR VR developers, and I myself and Anmol have worked on several AR projects together. So seeing a lot of AR VR and game dev contributions is something we were really proud of, we're really happy with. In fact, there's just so much good work going on with AR and open source. There are libraries like OpenCV, which help you integrate machine learning and augment real-time videos. So there's just so much scope. So I hope you all stay connected, learn, and aside from open source, with AR, there is so much out there. There's so much tech that we can cover. I think Anmol can talk a bit about the projects we did together with help of open source.
Parul and I, have developed quite a few projects together, and most of them are open source. You guys can also go and contribute. You guys can make changes to those projects as well. So, talking about Unity, I think that I've developed quite a few games and even AR projects in Unity. There are a lot of plugins like Vulforia is open source, and in fact, Unity also has its own machine learning agent that is also open source. So it connects the Unity platform to Google's TensorFlow. So that is something that you guys can also go and explore. So these are open source technologies. In fact, the Unreal Engine, it's entirely open source. So there is a lot of scope in AR, and I feel like if a project is open source, the quality of the project elevates because so many people are contributing to a project, and like the quality of the project improves because so many perspectives are involved, and like so many people are contributing to it, trying to make it better, putting in multiple perspectives. So AR has a lot of scope, and you guys can all contribute. And I was really happy to see that there were so many contributions in both game dev and the AR filters and AR projects. So
I think aside from AR, a lot of places where we received contributions was Flutter as well, which is entirely an open source framework. I think Tamanna is our Flutter developer, so she could take that.
Yeah, so let's talk about something about Flutter. So Flutter is an open source framework, as you all know, by Google for beautiful and natively combined UIs from a single code base. So that sounds amazing. I know it. So being able to create Android, iOS, web, Windows, Mac OS apps from just a single code base. Now, you must be wondering why Flutter. So, well, Flutter provides fast development, expressive and flexible UI, and native performance. And I was really happy to see that so many good PRs in Flutter's cohort. So, very amazed to see that there's so much engagement in Flutter. And I'll hand over to Yukti now. Thank you.
There's a question in the comments. I think Yukti can take it up. It's from World of Preeti,
I think
and it's
Yukti is having some connection issues right now. I think she'll join again.
okay. So the question is, what is open source actually, and how to contribute?
Well,
Yukti
I
is
think I
back.
got
Yukti is back.
disconnected. Wait.
Hi Yukti, there's a question for you which says, what is open source actually, and how to contribute?
I'm not sure if I can hear everyone. Can someone speak?
Hi Yukti, are we audible? Are we audible now?
Oh, yeah, you're audible now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Yukti,
that
I'll
was
repeat
amazing.
again.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
there is
was
a question in
amazing,
the
Tamanna,
comment.
Parallel. There are questions. Hey, where
Yeah,
do I
there's a
like
question.
the?
I'm
Yeah.
reading it out to you. Yes. What
I'll
is
share it
open
on the
source
screen as
actually,
well.
and how to contribute?
Oh, so open source is, like companies have their own code, their own software. Like, Windows is basically the operating system you're using, Windows, Mac OS. They're all like this. It's only code only. Okay, they're this all code. But when once you make that code freely available to the public for contribution, for taking inspiration, this is when the code becomes open source. So open source is like free software. You are not paying for it. Anyone can contribute to it. The code is not hidden. Like there is no gatekeeping.
I hope that answered your question, Preeti. And this is exactly what makes open source such a great thing is to because the code is so freely available. You have ideas, innovation, and all this coming from all over the world. Everything is online, and so many people working on the same project really do enhance its quality, as Anmol mentioned earlier. So open source is something that we as developers, as women in technology should integrate in our lives and really look up to it because collaboration is the way to go and it will lead to better results.
Yeah, and Parul, like the fact that a lot of people do not get the opportunity to work on industrial grade software, so open source is also a way for like students like us to actually see how production grade code looks like before we step into getting a full-time job or something.
Exactly. And our program was very beginner friendly. So I'm sure all of you all are familiar with Git and GitHub commands. Like if you learn version control, that is something that will really translate as an industry skill. As in you'll be required to update software, make changes. So this is something
Yeah.
that you can learn through open source. And Yukti had such a great point about you can actually go up and look at software before you join companies, before you start working, which really gives you an edge. So if you're active, if you're aware, and if you're into it, it's just such a s- vital resource for you to be successful, be a good developer. So
Right.
I think.
So Sheel Kumar Gupta asks, will there be any other programs on similar grounds in the future?
Right. So, Sushil, the program that we had, Autumn of Code, was a very beginner friendly one. There are open source programs running all throughout the year. As Yukti mentioned, the LFS mentorship is something that happens few times a year, few times throughout the year. And there are always bigger programs to look out for, like Google Summer of Code. And if you don't have as much coding experience, now we have Google Season of Docs as well. And we've done very, very detailed sessions on both of them on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And open source programs keep running all year round. We have Hacktoberfest every year, which is just centered around open source. So there are always opportunities. And as Yukti was saying, that you don't need to be a part of any program to contribute to open source. You can just look up some software, some organization that you're interested in. You can make a pull request and start contributing to their code. So you don't really need to be a part of any program, but if you are learning for like looking for a structured way to go about it, there are plenty of opportunities available.
Okay, I think that answers this question. Rama Gupta here asks how to start with AR VR.
So you'll have to be familiar with, there's various softwares to get started with AR VR. There is Unity, there's Unreal. What we do at our club is mainly working with Unity. So you'll have to learn C# scripting, and you can pick up a few beginner friendly projects. You can start with plane detection. And another resource that our community is working extensively with is Spark AR, which is also an open source software where you have patches. So if you're not very familiar with coding, you can make AR augmented experiences through patchwork, and you can even go inside the patches and look at the code behind it. So Spark AR is a very popular AR resource which is coming in. And basically all software that revolves around AR VR, we have Blender for making the assets we use in AR, that is also open source. So you have the internet, you have some knowledge, just go for it, Rama.
In fact, if you're looking for AR in web, so Unity does not allow you to do AR in web. So for that, you can even explore AR.js.
Right.
If you're trying to create an AR experience on a web application, AR.js is the way to go.
And there are
And
a lot
about
of libraries that get integrated with JavaScript code that will help you run AR on the computer as well. Also, a very good way that we followed is learning AR while starting with game development, because it is similar in a way. If you work with 3D games, it is all in C#. So starting with game development and leading up to AR is also a good way to go about it.
All right. Ashwi Guleria asks, I learned a lot during Autumn of Code. Should I now try for GSOC and other open source programs, or should I practice more?
you should definitely try for other programs now. I think you've already learned the basics from Autumn of Code, and now you're ready to apply for other programs as well. So
Yeah, and most importantly, Aishvi, there is no harm in applying. The worst that can happen is that you'll get rejected, right? So you really need experience applying too, because applications themselves to these programs can be a little time consuming and complicated. So please go ahead and apply.
It is always great to start applying as early as you can, and this learning period will go on forever. So start applying. I'm sure throughout AOC you've learned enough that you know how everything works. You know what the system is like. So you need to start applying so you can, communicate with your mentors more. There are a lot of things that you learn once you become a part of an organization. So the earlier you get on that, the better it is.
Yeah, and moreover, it's going to be a learning experience for you throughout. Um, okay, moving on. World of Preeti again asks a question. Are these winners from a competition that had between students to make projects? Not sure.
No, no,
Right,
no.
Preeti. I think you weren't a very active participant in Autumn of Code. It's okay. It's all live. It's all on YouTube. Go through our YouTube channel and you're going to learn a lot about it.
The next
Okay.
question we have is from Sushil Kumar Gupta again. So he's asking, how can we make good PRs?
I think Yukti
Okay.
can take that.
Yeah. So, hi Sushil. About this, I think the first PRs you make will not be very good PRs. Let's just accept that in terms of code. But what you can do to help it is like you should have like a good description for the PR. Even though the change you're doing is not very complicated or big, but let's say you are changing some CSS somewhere and you're fixing a bug. Let's say a button was the wrong size and you have made it the correct size now. So include that picture. Another good tip for making a PR is if you're solving an issue, always tag that issue in the PR so that the project maintainers can see what you're trying to solve. And the third tip is that you need to use good PR titles. The titles are the thing that is like the heading of the PR. There is like a core title for things like writing tests and introducing any unit testing or integration test. There is like a feature or FEAT suffix for a PR, which is when you're introducing a feature. Like let's say you added a nav bar, then you would be using that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have any other questions about it?
Right. Now, why has a question. Will GDSC organize more such programs? Of course, we will. GDSC is organizing programs all year round. We will now focus more on development. So stay tuned for more programs. There are going to be a lot of insightful sessions, lots of opportunities to win goodies, get recognized, and learn. So stay tuned to GDSC for that. Filza Siddiqui asks, should we try to participate in SWOC3? Of course, Filza. I would say after doing Autumn of Code, if you are a active participant here, the program structure is similar. So you can definitely, as Yukti was saying, apply for bigger programs. But SWOC is also a great place to, continue. So you should definitely apply for it.
Okay. I think we are done with questions here.
I I see Parikh Haitan's comment which says my first open source contribution just got recognized. Thank you very much. Well, very happy. We're very happy to have you here, Pari. And I
Yeah,
think you
thank you for contributing,
contributed.
Parul.
Yeah, I think you contributed in the Gave Dev repository, and we're like very happy to have you. So glad to be a part of your journey.
And Tanisha Bansal says, please continue to have such sessions. Sure, Tanisha, we'll bring more insightful sessions for you all. And I am sure GDSC will come up with more such sessions. Okay, so
Um,
I think we're running out of time now. And for any other doubts or questions, you can ping us on our Discord or any other socials. All our community links are there in the description. Thank you for joining in. Stay connected with GDSC IGDTUW for more such opportunities. Keep safe. Thank you very much. Bye bye.